struggle that we can struggle with, and the recording did start. So, but we understand that it can be difficult being a man. Okay, so we want to have the tools necessary to navigate this journey of manhood. And starting off this series with The Man, The Moment Demands by Jason Wilson, I think is a good start for us. And we're going to be in chapter 2 today. I did want to go back over one aspect that I did not talk about last week, because he gave us a diagram for those that have the book. And I do encourage you to get the book. The book is important, I think, because I'm not going to read the book. It's not like a book club where we sit down in a group and we all read and then have a discussion or little comments here or there. I'm just pointing out things that stand out to me, because I do want you to get the book. I want you to read ahead, so that you'll know what we're talking about and you'll have an idea of where Mr. Wilson is trying to take us in his understanding, because it is a little different hearing for most of us when we start talking about emotions, because men often, we're not guided in a way that helps us understand our emotion. This is why our prisons are so filled with men that have struggled with dealing with their emotions, and their emotions have caused them to error and to go into to do things that get them incarcerated. And so we have to understand what those are and how to navigate that time. And that's what this book really begins to help us navigate through. So in the book, let me see if I can show you the diagram so that you'll have a understanding from what I'm talking about. I don't know if it's all right. So he's talking about the different levels of earth, where from an earthquake perspective, you have the hypercenter, you have the uh, seismic, and then the epicenter. All of these things are important to understand where we're at in the process that gets us to that place where our world is starting to get out of control. And so at the base level, or the in-depth level, we have fear. He writes fear, loneliness, and insecurity. All of these are things that we as men deal with. We don't always know how to deal with that. We don't know how to deal with the inner fears, because we have perceptions that we're trying to maintain, that society told us that we're supposed to have. And so if we have these fears, how do we express that? How do we deal with the fear without it being disruptive or coming to that place of anger, or that place where our lives get out of control? If we have loneliness, how do we deal with that loneliness? How do we express that loneliness in a healthy way? If there's insecurities, and all of us as men have dealt with insecurities, it could be physical insecurities, emotional, psychological, educational, um, because life throws a lot of things at us. And so these things that cause us to be insecure about where we stand in society, or where we stand amongst men, can cause us to question whether or not we are capable, whether or not we meet the level of expectations that society has placed on us. So that can be insecurities, and if they're not dealt with. So if there's fear, the next level that will begin to cause things to begin to rumble, or to start heading towards the chaos or the anger, the symptom would be distrust. So if there's fear, then there's going to be distrust that's going to come. And that distrust begins to interfere with other people's lives around us, because if we're not trusting people, then we're always looking at people as having agendas, or not sincere. It interferes with our relationships. And so we've got to deal with that before it gets to the distrust. We have to handle the fear aspect before it reaches distrust. If there's loneliness, then there's lust that we deal with, because we all have a desire to be in relationships. We have desires for friendships. We have desires for belonging or participating in society. But if our emotions are such, or that we're not dealing with them well, and we have this loneliness because we're standing in the shadows, afraid to come out, then there's going to be lust issues because there is desires that are not being fulfilled. So the lust issues don't always have to be, come out from a sexual perspective, but a just a desire to participate, a desire to be involved, a desire to be valued. And when we don't feel these things, they can erupt and begin to bring our lives and our world into chaos. He also talks about the insecurity. If there's insecurity that is not dealt with properly, then we move towards anxiety. And we're filled with anxiety because of the insecurity. Do I meet up to the standard of manhood? If I have insecurities, then I'm going to feel that I'm less than. And if I feel that I'm less than, that means I'm not going to go after the things that I desire. As men, when we're thinking about relationships, we all know what we desire in a woman. If we say, oh, this woman is beautiful, this woman, I'd like to, be in a relationship with a woman that is taking care of herself physically, emotionally, and education wise. But if I feel insecure, I'm not going to go after what I want. I'm going to end up settling for something less than, or someone less than, because my insecurity or my level of security about who I am doesn't meet my desires. And if I do that, it's unfair to that individual, because that individual will disappoint me and they won't meet up to what I desire because I'm too insecure to go after what I desire. So you can see how these different levels began to disrupt as they get out of control. And this is why when we have anger issues, they all stem from all of these levels that have not been dealt with. And this is what Jason Wilson is trying to bring us to understanding. The emotions, it's not trying to say that we have to be soft, that we have to be like women, but it's saying that we all deal with emotions. And if we are all dealing with emotions, are we emotionally healthy? Jason Wilson uses the word emotional incarceration, because we're trapped in or incarcerated by our emotions because we don't know how to handle or to deal with that. And so if we're going to be comprehensive men, um, which is the subtitle of his book, then we have to have a good understanding and a good hold of dealing with our emotions. To understand what a comprehensive man is, there's a couple of things we need to understand what comprehensive is. Okay, what that means, because I wanted to give a definition so that we can understand what being comprehensive is. And then I'll also I mention what he is pointing out in his definition of comprehensive. Comprehensive is concerning or including almost all aspects of something. It can also mean having a thorough understanding of a subject. And so we want to have a thorough understanding of our emotional aspect of us. If I understand that and I know how to deal with loneliness, if I know how to deal with fear, if I know how to deal with insecurities, then it doesn't take me to the next level because I'm going to deal with it from a healthy perspective, so it never gets out of control and it never disrupts my family, my friends, and the relationships that are important to me. And so we want to have that. And so Jason Wilson, in his book, he describes the comprehensive man. He says, of the Most High, men who are physically, consciously, mentally um, astute and spiritually strong enough to navigate the pressures of this world without succumbing to their emotions. This is what he's looking at and trying to give us an understanding of what a comprehensive man is. So as we go through this, I know that, and I do want to hear from you guys because I do understand that there are those that have read chapter 2 and somehow are gaining an understanding that this might be weakness. I'd like to hear why you think it might be weakness or what your ideas of what he is trying to relay, what your ideas are that make it feel like this may not be the direction to go in. And so that's going to be important as we discuss. So chapter 2 is entitled "Whatever the Moment Demands." Whatever the moment demands. Okay, so if we are going to be the man that the moment demands, let's understand what that means when you say whatever the moment demands, because I've got to be able to function at certain levels of life, certain levels of relationships, certain levels of of uh, of dealing with. My phone is about to die on me here, and I don't know why. I got it plugged up. But we have to understand how to navigate through that so that we can be whatever the moment demands. And so let me read a little bit about what he is what he is trying to relate, because I think it's an important aspect here. All right. And this is a story that he is relating to from his life. And I think that you'll begin to see how this individual could not, because of his not dealing with his emotions or dealing with the perspectives of the world that have told him certain things, he wasn't able to meet whatever that moment demanded. It's a very simple concept here. He says, during uh, his years, he says, I owned and operated a ceramic and marble company. One morning, I received a call to provide an estimate for 2 bathroom models. When I arrived, a tall man, seemingly incapable of cracking a smile, welcomed me into his home. As I tallied up the materials, I inquired about his preferred color scheme. He sat back in his chair and fixed his gaze on me and with me, responded with me, I ain't no expletive. I don't know how to pick colors. This man's passionate response caught me off guard. I couldn't fathom why he reacted so insecurely when I was only asking about the color scheme. Suppressing my laughter, I resorted, are you suggesting that that I'm somehow less of a man because I excel in coordinating colors for a various model project? His response was, nah, dog. He replied, I'm just saying I don't have that kind of sensitive side. All right. So you can see at that moment, because he bought into this idea that in order to understand color schemes, that somehow is connected to being sensitive, um, you know, or gay, or uh, somehow feminine. And so, because of that, he's allowing those preconceived ideas interfere with him being able to respond or being whatever the moment demands. And so, when we have preconceived ideas of what it is to be men, these things can interfere with us being whatever the moment demands. So if I want to be able to function, answer questions, deal with circumstances around me, I have to be emotionally healthy. So, do I have insecurities, or did somebody once tell me? And we talked about this in the first chapter, where when you're young, how the things that are being said, the corrections that are being made, can some somehow mold you into your perspectives of what manhood is. And so if somebody told this man while he was young or in his early years, or mocked him or ridiculed him by his abilities to, or artistic desires, then he suppresses all of that. And if he suppresses all of that, because this in his mind now no longer aligns with what a man is, then he can't be whatever the moment demands. Are we struggling in areas of our lives that come from preconceived ideas of what the world is saying a man is and of what a man is not? Jason Wilson discusses that when he's asked the question, when we cried as young men at the loss of a friend, or uh, uh, we have I remember when I lost um, a, a puppy that I was given, and um, I blamed it on everybody because I hadn't gotten home from school, and they let the dog out and end up getting hit by a car. And my anger, my anger came out. I remember going to my room, and I cried and I cried and I cried. You know, now I went in a private place because I didn't want anybody to see me cry. Because again, you're hearing this idea that if a man cries, that somehow he's weak. But is that a moment of weakness, or is that something that we should all be able to express and be allowed to express that, so that we can deal with the emotions and not pin them up, and then those emotions then resurface later through anger, or through uh, us hurting somebody. So we have to be careful of the viewpoints that we allow to determine what we believe is a man, or characteristics of men. Jason writes, he says, remember, once you allow someone else to define you, you can never be what you are. You can never be all that you were created to be. Therefore, instead of simply conforming to the perceived expectations, the comprehensive man becomes whatever the moment demands. So I got to get rid of the preconceived ideas. And we all have them. All of us do, because we live in a world in which people have their own personal ideas, their own personal fears, their own personal insecurities, and they try to spread that so that you can be in the same, you can be as emotionally incarcerated as they are. So if I'm going to fully be able to function in all the circumstances, during times of sorrow, during times of anxiety, during times of fear, during times of joy, then I've got to be comprehensive. I have to understand myself well enough to be able to express myself in these circumstances so that I can be whatever the moment demands for me to be. Goes on, it is encouraging these days to see more men learning how to speak about emotions. But sadly, most of these same men do not know how to feel them. That is why I advocate for freeing us from uh, predefined notions. I encourage embracing the uniqueness that lies within each of us. Becoming the man the moment demands is a call that starts with rejecting the limits set by others and embarking on a path of self discovery, empowerment, and mental health. So I've got to get out of my ear those things that people have said to me. I'm too short. Um, you're too skinny. You're too lanky. You're too emotional. You're too uh, uh, whatever. So somebody may say, you know, we have when we go through. I know, and I deal with the public every day, and you can see where there are those that see themselves in a higher class or a lower class, depending on whatever society has told them. So if you wear a suit, then somehow you're better than the guy that's wearing a hoodie. If you have a degree, you're somehow better than the guy that dropped out of high school. If you got muscles, then somehow you are better than the guy that never picked up some weight. Uh, if you wear glasses, you are a Poindexter. You're somebody that, is a nerd. All of these things began to shape and mold us. So if we want to know ourselves, we want to understand who we are. We want to be able to rise to the level that uh, we're capable of. Then I gotta push all of that stuff out, and I only have to be listening to my own heart, my own desires, and begin to build from there. Some of us um, are great musicians, but we're told that we have a great ear to hear music. We love music of all kinds. But if we are playing music that doesn't jive with the societal norms, then somehow there's something wrong with us. How many of us like classical music? Is there something wrong with listening to classical music? Well, go to the hood, go to the places that you grew up in, and freely play classical music, and you'll see the responses that you're going to get. People are going to look at you like you didn't, dropped out of space, or you've come from some other place in society and you don't belong there. And that's wrong. And that's wrong for us to adjust our lives based off of how they feel and how they react to it. Some of us, again, we are designed to be great musicians, but we've allowed society to make us only do one thing. We're not all just rappers, but I remember coming into when I came into this walk, all of the music was just rap music. I'm like, we're more than rap music. We're more than hip hop. We've, you know, we've created just about every or all the genres of music that is out there. But if we are allowing society to box us in, then we're going to find ourselves. One second here, make an adjustment. So I'm going to lose everybody. There we go. All right, then we're going to box ourselves in and not become all that we should be. So I don't want to box myself in. I want to be able to express myself from the gifts that have been given to me. I love jazz. Um, that music resonates with me more than any other music. It didn't start that way. It started with surprisingly a listening to classical music. I hadn't been introduced to jazz yet, but my music tastes were at such a in-depth level that the only thing that could satisfy that at a young age was classical music. And so I would secretly, because it wasn't something that was accepted within the environment that I grew up, I would secretly listen to classical music. And I enjoyed it. And it satisfied that creative longing that I had, but I could not do this and express myself openly. And then I found jazz, and jazz even took me to another level. But but my peers, because they could not understand, or they looked at it as an older man's music. And so again, I'm being pushed or not allowed to express myself because society is dictating to me what I should be doing. And then I'm following suit with that because of insecurities, because of fear, because I don't want to experience loneliness. And if I'm not dealing with that, then it moves to the next level. And then eventually I would explode in emotional outbursts because I'm bottling up all of the things that I desire to do and to be, and nobody is accepting that. So, can you see how when we are allowing society to dictate to us what a man is, how it can steer us or cause issues within our lives? And this is why, again, when we look at prisons, why are prisons so filled with men that are educated, men that are capable, but they're emotionally incarcerated and then they become physically incarcerated? This is important. And this is why I say it's hard for us to be men, because all of this takes discipline and it takes being secure in who we are. And if we're not willing to do that and to put in that work, then our lives are not going to be fulfilled. I'm looking to be to have a fulfilled life. I'm looking to have a great relationship, um, great marriage, great friendships. But the only way that I can do that is stop posturing. We talked about that last week, because posturing is not reality. It's not who I am. I'm trying to present a different persona. But just to be me, just to enjoy being me. So when people get in my car, I'm not playing rap music. It's not that I don't like rap music, but yeah, you're gonna hear some Miles Davis. You're gonna hear some Coltrane. You're gonna hear some Chick Corea. You're gonna hear a lot of jazz because that's who I am. I've learned to accept who I am. I've learned to accept whatever limitations that I have physically and not look at that as being less than, because I might not be able to lift as much as somebody else. So we have to have emotional stability. Again, I say I'm not going to read the entire book because I want us all uh, to uh, to read and begin to get an understanding, and also ask questions concerning some of the things that you may have read ahead. The journey from he writes, the journey from a uh, purely masculine male to a comprehensive male is a path you take for yourself. When when you're motivated to change, is driven by pleasing others, especially women, you risk emotional uh, reciv- the division, recidivism. It's a word. I did look it up, and I'm gonna tell you what it means in a minute. The moment you feel your moments are your efforts are appreciated. So recidivism is means the tendency of a convicted criminal to reoffend. And he uses that word because he uses the word emotional incarceration. So if we are emotionally incarcerated and we are moving from emotional incarcerated to freedom, and then but our motives are not in the right direction, then we're going to have a tendency to end up going back to where we were at, doing the same things and allowing ourselves to be emotionally incarcerated again. We don't want to do that. So what is your reasons for it? If is it for women? Because if it is, then you're going to find yourself being all over the place, because we have to have a we have to move in reality. We have to function. Our relationships have to be built on reality. But if I'm only doing this to please somebody else or to satisfy somebody else's desires, how can that relationship have a firm foundation? It's all built on sand. So maybe I do understand how to be able to go out and be this guy that gets these beautiful women, but I have to do it by putting on a different character. Well, what's going to end up happening is eventually insecurity is going to come in, because I know I'm lying, because I'm playing a role of somebody else to be able to accomplish something. Eventually, loneliness is going to come in because I'm not finding the fulfillment within that relationship, and then fear is going to come in because of the chance of me losing the relationship. Eventually I'm going to become so emotionally unstable that I'm going to destroy the relationship and my own life. This is why understanding what is pointing out is so important, because all of this matters. But we have to be honest enough with ourselves to be able to deal with the in-depth issues that we have emotionally. He writes, when we acknowledge the comprehensive nature of men, we go beyond man's stereotypes to appreciate the full spectrum of their identity and purpose in today's world. That's the only way that you're going to be a comprehensive man. That's the only way that you're going to be a man that is whatever the moment demands. Is when I've moved beyond the preconceived ideas that the world has placed upon me. When I moved beyond the ideas that my father, my uncles, my brothers, uh, my friends, all of them said I was supposed to be. I have to move beyond that. And when I move beyond that, now I can fully mature into the man that I'm supposed to be to this world the unique being that I am, to give to this world the benefit of me being here. Because, like I mentioned last week, we are all unique to the world. We are all, there's never been a man on this earth like you before, nor will there ever be a man like you. But if I'm trying to be somebody else, now I'm trying to imitate, and I'm going to fail because there can only, like the Matrix say, there can, there can only be one, and that's me. There's only one of me. There will only be. I can have 9 sons, 12 sons. All of them are going to have different personalities, different gifts. There's going to be some likenesses that we're going to share. I look in the mirror every day and I see my father. Every day I look in the mirror, I see my father. I'm not trying to be like my.
Hey, Elder,
Yeah.
that's the Highlander I think you was talking about, not the Matrix
Yeah.
Highlander.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It was the Highlander. You're right. I watched all of those movies. There can only be one, and so they went around cutting off the heads of anybody that had that particular gift, so that they can be at the end the one and have all of the power. But that's not how we move. That's not how we live our lives. I'm already unique. I'm already powerful. I'm already capable. I'm already all that I need to be if I embrace it and then allow it to be expressed in the world. This way, my Isha knows, or my wife knows who I am. She can fall in love with who I am. She can appreciate who I am. She can respect who I am. But can I maintain that if I have brought her into a relationship based off of what I think a man should be? And then when I can't live up to that idea, those false perspectives, then that relationship begins to crumble because she is looking for something that I know that I can't fulfill because that's what I made her look at. I don't want her to look at me in any other way than who I am. If you don't like me for who I am, if I'm in a relationship and a woman doesn't like who you are, then move on to another one where she can appreciate who you are. So if you are a artistic individual, you may want to find a woman that can appreciate the artistic side of you, so that that doesn't so that you don't that doesn't become uh, suppressed because it's bottling up. You're never going to get rid of that because it's part of how you were created. It's part of what the Most High desired for you to be. So learn to accept who you are, to express that, regardless of the insecurities of other men around you that make you believe you have to be something different. And so I think that that's the last thing I've wrote um, uh, that I highlighted that I wanted to talk about today. But we have to find the root of the issues. He also writes a different diagram, and this is a diagram of a tree, uh, and the tree has its roots, and so the soil that this tree is planted in is the environment. Okay, so in the environment, it's going to feed the roots, and the roots then develop the tree. So you can see where the problems began because of the environment or the soil that you are being raised or planted in is not good soil, then the tree is not going to be solid. It's not going to be as strong or as capable as it could be. And then if the tree is growing, well, there's going to be branches that are growing off, and these branches are growing off of it are a result of the trunk of the tree, which is a result of the roots, which are the result of the soil in which they're um, planted in. And so you can see how this begins to bloom or to blossom into something that is completely out of control and no longer resembles what it's supposed to be. So we want to handle that. We want to deal with that, and we want to discipline our lives to grow in our understanding of the soil, because we can find a different soil to, and that's by, when I say a different soil, a tree can't move, we can. So I can surround myself with positive people if I've only been exposed to negative people, because I need to feed off of something else that's going to allow me to grow in a more healthy way. So I need to get rid of the negative influences in my life. But am I, again, disciplined enough to say, okay, I've been around, I've been around really, really hard uh, people from the hood all my life, and trying to move to a class of people that may study a lot, that may talk, differently. How am I going to be viewed by the group of people that I was raised with when they see me hanging out with these guys over here that ain't wearing Nikes, you know, that are not, wearing hoodies. They ain't, they're not driving in cars with 26-inch rims. How am I going to be viewed by that particular uh, environment, the one that I grew up in, when I'm trying to develop and grow and to be something different? And it's not to say that that group that you're moving to is healthy, because we all are we all deal with different perceptions, because there ain't nothing wrong with wearing a hoodie. But what is my idea? What does it mean to me? Because if wearing a hoodie to me means something that came from the environment that I grew up in a healthy environment, then I need to change that. But it's the same thing with the other group. If not wearing a hoodie means that I'm somehow better, then I've got to change that perspective, because that doesn't make you better. It's just a garment to wear, and it can mean whatever it is that you make it to be, but you have to be secure enough to make it that. Because if it's going to be only what society says it is, and I'm going to conform to that, then I'm being controlled by outside sources, and I'm never reflecting the true individual. That's why it's important to understand the source of where all of what we are dealing with, striving to become mature men, is coming from. And so I do want to open up to hear from you guys, your comments, your concerns, and questions, and things that we can discuss concerning where we're at in this second chapter.
Um, I would like to speak to your statement earlier that you probably made from our conversation yesterday.
hmm
Okay.
About
It was
about
some brothers.
about weakness, right? Being that
Yes.
this chapter may be causing us to be weak. So yes,
Yes,
address.
I very much would like to speak to that.
Yes.
Okay. What um what you said isn't exactly what he said. And I think you having all of the knowledge you have in scripture and about life is that you tied a lot of things in. You made it sound a lot more uh um agreeable, if you would,
Palatable.
right? Uh, yeah. Um, I would like to point out that, right, we have to understand generation,
hmm
and that in our culture, each generation had a different fight. Okay,
Correct.
my generation, we had uncles, we had, fathers around, and we were geared towards a toughness, right? Now, Your generation and the previous generation was geared more towards a
Towards
kind of
what?
like a hardness,
Yes, because
hardness.
I came up during the civil rights era. I am at the end. I am at the end of the baby boomers. So yes, I
Right,
did come up having to really. I come up in a society as far as Black men are concerned, trying to find our identity because we are now building on something that did not exist prior to. So continue.
right. So, you know, he most likely spoke from that same kind of a mindset, right? Of men needing to learn to kind of dial it down, tone down the hardness, tone down toughness, right? But the brothers on the call spoke more to this current generation, from teenage to early 20s. This
Hmm.
generation has been brought up lacking a lot of male input. It's been a lot of female input. It's been a lot of dumbing
Right,
down.
because
It's
of
been a lot of
social
chaos.
because of social media. Social media
Yes.
floods us with ideas that take away from our individuality because we don't know where to be. You know, where when you came up, you may had just a handful of voices that were molding you. In social media, I'm dealing with tens of thousands of ideas, and I can't, that's too much to process. And I'm all over the place. And like you were saying, it just becomes chaos. But go ahead.
Right. So what the brother spoke to, and I agreed with, is that now how you put it, how you said it, that's fine. That would apply. But in the context of that book and that chapter, it didn't really hone in on, well, accurately enough on how to deal with these young men and these men
Hmm.
that pretty much are like starting from scratch. No real righteous male input. And many of them even like almost completely feminine in their way and their mindset, to where they need a hardening, they need a toughening, whereas the previous
Well,
generations needed to tone it down a bit. You
that
know,
is true.
that's
But
what they were
those,
speaking to.
but that is, both of them are characteristics that this book is trying to get you to understand. Why is it that the previous generations were hard and believed that being hard was the ideal persona of a man? And why is it that this particular generation is soft and feels like this is, the persona of being a man? Both of them are wrong. We need to understand that all of these are just coming from social ideas that don't necessarily line up with the truth. And so each group has to learn to develop an understanding as to why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I'm presenting myself the way I'm presenting myself, so that I can deal with that properly. So I don't have to succumb to um, the disillusion of what society is saying. But the only way that you can do that is by, again, understand dealing with the emotional or side of you. Because again, how can I move away from the soft or this femininity aspect if I fear what my peers are going to say? So
Right.
I have to understand that, okay, I got to deal with this fear if I'm going to move past this. I got to deal with the loneliness of those that are going to reject me because I'm moving away from it. and I got to deal with uh, uh, the insecurity that I'm feeling as I navigate through this without truly, before I can truly understand where it is that I'm going. So it's not about looking at where we should, because he's not really telling us where you should be, but he's saying we have to understand that we're more than what everybody want, society wants us and is telling us we should be. So what is the definition of a man? Well, that's not for I'm not looking for a definition because I can't be defined that way. I can understand that I am a male. I can understand that there are characteristics that a male have, but they stem from physical, spiritual, psychologically. Yes, there are differences from a man than there is from a woman, but who has the box that I'm supposed to fit in? Nobody has that box. That's because there is no box that's labeled Yasav Lanu, because I am unique to this world. There was nobody before me like me, and there's nobody like me now, and there's not going to be anybody like me hereafter. So where's my box? I don't have one. And I have to understand how to navigate in this world with the emotions and the what the Most High has placed in me, and then learn to express that freely without fearing the ideas and the concerns of other people.
Well
I'm
said.
finished
Shalom,
as well. Somebody else is speak.
shalom,
Uh,
elder. Thank you again for this and everything that you're bringing out. I'm reading comments in the chat saying like I needed things like this when I was 28 years old. I'm sure we all can echo needing this throughout our lives, even as a youth. I wanted to reflect on what you were just saying and what you've been talking about. I want to make sure I'm, from what I'm hearing you say, it makes me think back to when I was a young child and watching the older men around me, whether it be they were teenagers at the time because I was 5 or 6, or they were in their 20s or 30s, watching them put on this facade for the sake of gaining said woman, and me living with them knowing that once she is with him, that's not who he really is. Who he displays himself to be versus who she's going to get after, 30 or 40 days is not going to be the same individual.
That's right.
Then I also watched, the men around me observe men out in the world because there weren't fathers in the homes, which creates a lot of confusion. So now you're looking to your ushers, you're looking to potential crooked leaders, in the community, or the local car salesman who seems to, the local car salesman. I think somebody's
Uh,
unmuted.
yeah, we need to mute you need to mute your phone.
You need to take my two off her list.
Very well.
History. So it's all there if anybody wants.
There's an individual that needs
All
to
right.
mute your phone. We
Very
can hear
well.
your TV in the background.
Thank you. You can keep this on your file
You want
and
me to keep it? Okay.
keep it on your file. And take it out right now.
Brother, is it just is it
But everything is,
what's the
I'm
name?
just waiting for them to actually bake
Uh,
it. We
Okay.
baked
Brother
it
Jesse.
Under January.
Brother
Brother
Jesse.
Jesse, you need to hit the mute
Oh, yeah, I'm
button.
gonna do that.
Good,
Something
good.
that, you keep putting up.
Okay.
So
All
yeah,
I
right.
don't think
my
his
fault.
ear is
No
close to the
worries.
phone to hear what we're saying about
Whoever
Is
pushing the
Okay,
as the
good,
host,
good.
button.
Thank you.
yeah, the
you
host.
can mute him, Elder.
I
You
I
can mute his mic.
I've not been made the host, so well, I looked last time I wasn't, so he was supposed to make me the host or the co-host, but I did not. So
Okay,
go
I think
ahead.
he's muted now. No problem. So, and then I'm watching him look at, the local car salesman who seems to have all the women around him. And so they're adopting these traits that they see because they have to adopt something. There's something, in a child that has to adopt something to be able to grow and develop. And you know, and as I looked around, it made me feel some type of way about the men around me, about my gender, about myself as a race, as a part of this melanated race, because I'm watching it all go wrong. But in lieu of what you're saying, it sounds like the fact that we were all trying to find that box with our name on it was exactly the distraction that caused a lot of the confusion, because we are uniquely and wonderfully made, and we weren't affirmed that this somebody needs to hit their mute button. Um, we weren't affirmed that we can be a man and be an artist, that we can be a man and be a good salesman, that we can be a man and be tough, but also be gentle, but whatever is specific and unique to you. And just that little bit would have made all the difference. As we read through the scriptures and all the different men and examples we have, they are all drastically different. But the
Yes.
scriptures clearly say that it's all the same body, the same ruach, but different gifts.
Hmm.
And it really spells it out there in First Corinthians chapter 12. The last point that I wanted to make to what you said earlier about you know, you said you drive, you pick people up, and when they get in your car, they listen to jazz music. I've been told numerous times, sometimes when people call me, I have to turn off my massage harp music in the background because it can make people go to sleep. Um, but what has happened and the times I've had to catch Uber and Lyft, and as you can imagine, as a blind person, I catch a lot of Uber and Lyft. I'll get in a vehicle with somebody who is you know, either Caucasian or Hispanic or Indian, whatever, and they be by the color of my skin, they start playing rap music. But I'm more like you, Elder. I don't listen to rap music like that. At half the time, it grosses me out. It's like it's too much, and they feel as though this is going to help get them a tip. This is going to gain a smile by their pleasant passenger. This is going to get them 5 stars, and I could just feel that energy. So you know what I started doing? I got in the car and I would say to the driver, "Hey, what music do you listen to?" And they would first lie and say, "Oh no, I like this good music." I'm like, "No, no, no, this is not good music. I promise you, this is not good music. What do you listen to?" And then they think of us, "Oh, you want to hear my music?" And there's that little boy inside them who's like,
Yeah.
someone's affirming something
Yes.
about me, and then they turn on what music they listen to. Now, mind you, I don't know half what it's saying, but I enjoy it with them. And I'm telling you, Elder, the energy, the whole ride has changed
Hmm.
completely. This person has a genuine smile. He's almost sitting up more in his chair. He's got a whole different air because now he's accepted where he thought he wouldn't be, where he thought he had to be something that he wasn't. So
And
I'm Go ahead.
this is why it's important to find who you are, because when we live in a world where everybody is free to express who they are, then the world becomes more colorful. And it's not just, and I think he uses in the first chapter, or he uses somewhere in his book, because I heard his Jason Wilson talk about, he doesn't have just 8 crayons, you know, he's a box of 20, 64, you know. Okay,
Hallelujah.
but you have to be emotionally stable in order to do that. And if we are living in a if we're living in an environment that allows you to be who you are and express who you are, then it becomes more colorful and it becomes more acceptance, and people people are generally happier because I don't have to be something that I'm not. I don't have to endure rap music. I don't have to endure country western music. I don't have to endure, classical music. I don't have to endure, Disney music. You know, it's not that I mean, I'm not enduring these things when I have to be in an environment. I want you to express what you're expressing. When it comes to music, and this is what I had to learn this, because when I grew up in the hood. There was I can if I did not leave my neighborhood, I could go the entire summer without seeing a white face. Everybody for blocks were just African American, black folk.
Khan.
Uh, um, and so all of my music I listened to was music of my people. The way we dressed, I didn't see anybody dressing any different than all of us were dressing. And so when I left home and I went into the military, and again, having this love for music that I do, and I'm working in an environment and I'm the only black face in that environment. And so I'm listening to rock and I don't know what to listen for. I don't know why they like the music. And so I eventually got the group of guys together and said, hey, I want to spend some time with you guys playing your music. And I need you to tell me what you like about it, what experiences you're having with this music. And so I spent an afternoon and all we listened to was rock. I learned to have an appreciation from that. It's not my music of a taste, but I don't have this adverse reaction to it anymore because I understand it better. But I had to allow somebody to be free enough to express that so that I could then overcome my issues with it so that I can learn to express it. I can give you another example of dealing with opposite races. When we are only allowed to see and have a viewpoint of one thing, that is the thing that we have a tendency to gravitate towards, and we don't see the differences. We don't understand or appreciate the differences. So when I went into the military, and I remember riding to our barracks the first day, and there was a bus full of white folk, Hispanic, and black folk. After spending the day, I knew everybody that was in my unit because I had, either seen them, been around them enough to be able to recognize them and know where they belong and where I belong. Okay, we all got on a bus and we went to go get our haircuts. When we all got our haircuts, I still knew who all the black guys were because I'm used to seeing black men with all different kinds of haircuts. I've learned to see their differences and their expressions and the way they talk. But I lost track of every white man that was in there. I couldn't recognize any of them because I hadn't learned to recognize them for their individuality. This is the issues that we have when we are in a box. We need to be outside of boxes so that we can learn to appreciate the world and to understand how to navigate in this world and accept what we see and grow from it. But if all we have is one thing, that's all we told that we can have, all that we should have, all that we are and all that we will be, then we're in a box of crayons that is only 8 colors in it. I need the box that is 64 colors, the full spectrum. And that's when the world becomes something pleasant, beautiful to be a part of.
Hallelujah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
First, I wanted to comment on Brandon's take on that chapter.
It wasn't Brandon's take. That's correct. I mean, I agreed with the brother, but he brought it forth, and certain points I agreed with. That's just put it there. Go ahead.
Is he feeling insecure?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to come at it from a different point of view. Probably because I'm older, but older with grown children.
Shalakia, sir, if you can get a little closer to your microphone so we can hear you really well.
Hold on. I'm gonna change microphones. Turn this one off. Can you hear me now? Oh shoot.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. You hear me okay now?
Oh, beautiful. Go ahead.
I believe that the trauma he was speaking to is coming from the same place, with the overt femininity or feminism that we see today, and also the overt hardness that we've seen of our past. Because if you look at the history behind it, it all stems from removing the father from the house. So we're dealing with the same trauma, just being manifested in a different way,
Yes,
which
perfectly. That's
lets us
perfectly
know
said.
that the same root solutions can also, help and or work. For example, I came up in that time when there was a very hard, don't show no emotion type of atmosphere coming up in the neighborhood. And then on top of that, I ran with a crew and at times did what you call gang banging. So the peer pressure that comes along with the inability to control your emotions is unreal. And I've seen that manifested today because I've raised my children in a way, and the people that they're around had fathers as well, about my age that they came up with. So we're raising our children from that background, but we have matured a little bit. So our children is getting some of that hard take, but they also have the balance of having their mother in the household, but still they're getting some of our trauma. So they're dealing with their peers in similar fashions, but with better outcomes because they don't have the outbursts or on both sides of that equation. Like for example, if my friend came up with a single mother and he doesn't know how to control his emotions and I do, he's going to have an outburst. But since I know how to control my emotions, my response to his outburst is going to be better than if I had the same issues that he had coming up.
Yeah.
Where a lot of us went to jail, we both had the same issues. You outburst, I outburst. We friends, but now we fighting. It never, I seen that play out in my neighborhood where the crew that sold drugs together got drunk and everybody beat everybody up through the night. Like the whole crew was fighting each other. It's ridiculous. But now the children that have the two-parent household with a little bit of the trauma from their father and possibly a little bit of trauma from their mother as well, they're also going to put on a facade because the majority of their surroundings is going to be one-parent household children with this lack of emotional stability. So they want to try to fit into their peer group. So they're also going to try to have this facade that's going to play out and affect them in different ways. I spoke with a gentleman not too long ago where him putting on that facade was starting to break him down because first off, you seem to have your stuff together because you've been taught well and you're moving forward as a more complete person than someone that was raised with a single parent household. So now everyone's coming to you for advice, for money, for shelter. You're that go-to person because you look like you got it together, but you're just starting out just like they are, except you're doing a little better. You're going to want to hang out with the hard people because just like back in the day, everybody wanted to be like the gangster. No, I don't know why. I mean, I still like gangster movies though, but everybody wanted to be like the gangster. So our children are no different. They want to be like the hard guys in the hood. It's something romanticized about that, even still to this day. And those pulls takes the new generation into a different atmosphere than it took us. But the point is that it all stems from the same problem, the absentee of the father.
Yeah. And, even at best, we're still going, we all have issues. There's nobody that's going to grow up and be complete, complete without having to put in any work. It's because we come from people, you know, that have gone through trauma, broken people, people that have struggled in certain areas, and so it's not we, you know, it's not that there's a perfect couple that is raising perfect children. Um, we as men have to learn this. We've got to have something to work through that allows us to grow in this area and to mature. And and you can turn your camera off, uh, but that's part of developing. Uh, Antoine, turn your camera off. that's that's part of maturing and growing as men. All of us are going to have to eventually deal with the pressures of what society says, and then have a working knowledge as to how to overcome that. And comprehensive that's what comprehensiveness is, because I have the tools in my toolbox to deal with the emotional outbursts, the emotion, you know, the emotions that are in seclusion, the emotions of desire, the emotions of whatever. I can now manage that without getting myself in trouble, without crossing certain lines, without creating an atmosphere that's not healthy. And that's what this book is trying to get us to. And it's what my conversation. So when you say that in the book you may not have read um, uh, read it in the way that I'm explaining it, well, this is why I didn't want to read the book and only hear what the book is saying. I wanted to bring out certain aspects of the book and then talk about that so that we can be more comprehensive about it. Okay, because you know, I'm around 10 years older than Jason Wilson. So the way he sees things and his experiences are going to be different. We're going to merge in certain areas because of because we are within, around 10 years apart. So there is going to be some blurring of some of the experiences that he has. But there's a lot of experiences that I have had that have taught me key lessons. And I think he is articulating them very well. But I want to be able to talk about that, share some of my things that I've learned, some of the wisdom that has been given to me, to be able to help bring it out in a way in which the community in which I function around gains the understanding necessary. Any more comments, questions, concerns?
I didn't know that Antoine was a gangster. I learned something new today. You've come a long way, brother.
He spoke from Detroit. Jason Wilson is even from Detroit. Detroit, it's a different environment.
Peer pressure strong, my friend. Peer pressure strong. And you got to survive too.
Yeah.
I had another comment as well. It always, I don't know, I guess it surprises me when I involve myself or read some of these type of books, the thoughts and the memories that come back to kind of, bring them points home. Because, I have an older brother. He's got about maybe 5 years older, maybe 6, somewhere up in there. But he's in his 50s. We came up in the same house, but we turned out completely different, which is just boggles the mind. And then when he started explaining some of those aspects that men go through when it comes to not having control of their emotions, and those situations kind of lead them or turn them into something else. They're basically, their life is progressing on circumstances. And now that he's pointed it out, I'm looking at my brother like, he has a life of circumstances. He took no control up until whatever point it got better. And it just was totally out of his hands. It's only by the grace of the Most High that he's still here with that type of lack of control over oneself.
It's reactive. It's living a life of reaction instead of being proactive. Men, and again, uh, we as men have to be proactive. If we're reactive, we're never standing on a solid foundation because we're being controlled, moved, and uh, by the environment and the situation that's around us. But if I'm proactive, I'm constantly seeking to find a stable footing. Um, and that's where I'm doing. I'm constantly moving, constantly being proactive. If I see something going on, if I hear something going on, if I have some understanding of certain aspects of the environment that I'm in, then I can put myself in a position where I'm not going to get shot. I can put myself in a position where I'm not going to get in a fight. I can put myself in a position where I'm not going to be enticed by this loose woman. I'm not going to put myself in a position where somebody's going to put something in my drink that's going to cause me, uh, you know, to be intoxicated. I'm constantly moving. That's why I tell people often, I'm nobody's victim because I'm not going to allow myself to be victimized by not paying attention and not allowing myself to be under control. Again, this is what being a comprehensive man is, though. It's because if you're not comprehensive, meaning that I'm not aware of and understand my environment, then I'm going to be a result of the environment. And I don't ever want to be a result. The job I have, the people I run up against, dealing with, driving around people all day long, I'm 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 hearing and I'm experiencing everything. But I have to have enough understanding and emotional maturity to make sure that nothing takes me off of my square. Got to constantly stand on something on a solid foundation. If we are putting in the work and we're taking off the masks to see what we're like, to understand who we are, because that's the only way that I can do that. I know where my weaknesses are at. Why? Because if I don't have on a mask, then I can see what I'm being given, I give myself over to. And I can say, okay, I need to work on that. You know, I got issues of lust. And so if women, if I'm around women that are a little too loose, then I find myself struggling, then okay, now I know I need to work on that. But if I'm always got a mask on and I'm always giving in, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know where my strengths lie. I don't know where my weaknesses are at. And I'm constantly being pushed around and reacting to everything that's said and everybody I meet because I have no clue of who I am.
I want to speak to something. Uh, there's a great difference between a man and, you know, a husbandman, a covering, you know, one that sits over, rules over, guides in all things, protects in all things. And I think we are just now getting to a place to like start doing that in a according to scripture, right? You know, y'all said that the daughters of Zion are haughty and they walk forth with outstretched necks and tinkling ornaments, right? A haughtiness
Hmm.
from everything he has given them. And then he goes on to say how he's going to take it all back and how everything that was nice and cute and calmly and all that, that it would become putrid and defiled, right? And that is us as a people, like he stripped us down to the bare essentials to where we'd have to work our way back up. And it's like that's what we're learning now is that he's put
Mhm.
us in such a place as a people that the only way out is through him. It's like you got too much going on to be obedient. So how about if I take some of that away and then you're gonna beg for obedience. You're gonna seek for it. I won't have to tell you, and it's like this concept of being a man, you know, a head, a patriarch, you know, it isn't only for us, it's for the world. We are to be patriarchs of the world that lead and guide and instruct the world about Yah, to be his Kohanim, to be his priest. But it starts at home. It starts on a individual, you know, case basis. And uh I could see it. And it's
Well,
awesome, for this
well,
call and
yeah, well,
go ahead.
you're hitting on the things that are important because this is the Most High knows what he's doing, and he has prepared uh, his prophets to speak in due time. And when I say his prophets, and that doesn't, I'm not saying that I'm a prophet, but I have learned the Most High has taken me through life lessons for this day, so that I can participate with him in order to get his men, his heads of household, in order to prepare them for what is yet to come. All of us have been given gifts and abilities to be able to participate with the Father as we navigate through this life in this flesh. And his prophets are always there first. So all I'm saying, it's just like when the Messiah would say, those that have an ear, let them hear. Those that have ears are the people that are saying, you know what? I see the Most High moving in a way I've not seen before that's preparing us. I need to get on board with that. So our marriages that have been failing because of what we've been through, our lack of fatherhood is lacking because of what we've gone through. But the father would be irresponsible if he's not going to get us ready. So he has to prepare. He has to have the Moseses, ready and prepared. So Moses had to come up the way he did. He had to go out into the wilderness the way he did in order to be prepared to deal with the exodus of the day of his day. But he's doing that with every generation. All we have to do is have an ear and eyes to see. So I grew up in an environment where there was no advice from men because it wasn't the time in which the Most High was preparing us. But now he has prepared me because I've gone through so much, and I'm still here. What I'm still here is because he wants me to give back. And that's what I'm doing. I'm giving back what I've learned so that you don't have to go through, you don't have to suffer through this. You can start to build so that you will all be better men than I am, prepared and ready for the exodus that is yet ahead of us. But we all have to hear. I'm not the only one. Jason Wilson is one as well. and there's others that are out here giving the word so that we can get ourselves together. But if we just say, you know what, I'm just gonna be this hard dude. I ain't never read a book before. You know, I ain't got time to sit and listen to nobody on no YouTube or Facebook or whatever. Well, you're gonna get stuck in your environment, in your place. And like the 10 virgins, you had 5 that were foolish. They didn't fill their lamps. You had the wise that were filling their lamps. They're getting as much information, knowledge, applying it to their lives so that when the bridegroom comes knocking, they're answering. And they're ready to move. And that's what this is all about. I'm trying to get a group of men, women, young men, children, ready to move. And so I want to end with that. I do appreciate all those that have been on with us today. And next week, we're going to be in chapter 3. There is still a lot to learn, a lot to talk about. I look forward to it. I look forward to spending time with you guys. I do have a Facebook page that you can go back and listen to this lesson, or you can share this lesson. The Facebook page is the base. The word, the base, the letter N, my voice, the base in my voice. That is,
Before
go
I
ahead.
apologize to cut you off. There's somebody that have their hand raised. I don't know if you addressed her or not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's no
No,
problem. It's no problem. To Suriel, if I pronounced that correctly. Go ahead and speak.
Oh, I was gonna say thank you for the lesson, and I also learned that to be yourself and like not matter what other people think because it might not be kind.
that's good. That's
That's
good.
good. All
Because
right.
we have to make sure that we're not building our lives off of other people's opinions about it. I'm going to be secure in who I am and what the Most High has made me. And that is for all of us. I don't care if you're 7 years old or if you're 70 years old. We've got to stop being what we believe society wants us to be. The Most High needs independent men, strong enough to follow his will and to do what he asked them to do. Not swayed by society, not swayed by the environment, not swayed by physical threats, but capable of being able to stand on any square that the Most High places you on and not be moved. It takes a comprehensive man to be able to do that, and this is what we're trying to build through these lessons. And
Also, one more
right.
thing. The video will be recorded and will be posted on YouTube.
All right.
All right.
Again, that YouTube page is the bass in my voice. The bass, the letter N, and my voice. The bass in my voice. That is a YouTube page that last week was the first post. This week will be the second post, and many posts after that. Even when this book is done, that's where all the material, all the conversations, all the tidbits, all the lives, and everything will be posted, so that we can begin to build uh, um, strong foundation in this journey of manhood. All right, it's been good seeing you all. Do I have a volunteer to close us out in prayer? And it could be anybody.
No problem. I don't mind. I just want to give somebody else opportunity as well.
That's
Let us
good.
all prepare ourselves and go before the throne.